And welcome everybody here in the Fandom car. It is the most air freaking ground shaking, but never media show money taking. The man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in YouTube entertainment today, Mr. General Zod. And today, on this rather hot day, I've decided to not only do this live stream, but to eat and drink coffee outside in 80-degree weather. So if I pass out midway, Stevie, you've got to take reins and direct the rest of this stream.
Yeah, that's no worries. I've never been a villain before, but I can give it a try. No problem.
So today is a special day, and I'm going to give you guys some context before I introduce my guest here. I've been trying to do this interview now for a while, but it seems appropriate because Mr. Stevie J here reached 1K. So congratulations on that, good sir.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's a bit weird actually because you check your analytics and you check your sub count and your watch time and this and that every day, and it's just weird to actually turn it on and it says 1K finally. So it's good. It's good.
I don't know. When I reach 1K, I'll probably just retire.
Oh, come on. It won't take that long.
But anyways, we're here to do another great episode of Fandom Talks where I interview new YouTubers, upcoming YouTubers, or established YouTubers who I feel like people want to get more of an in-depth look at. They want to know more about. And the funny story about this is actually me and Stevie have been doing streams together. He's part of the Prophets of Geek Culture and our late night talks. And we've just never, because of time zones, actually hit that good stride where we could connect on a one-on-one kind of interview. So today is a great day because I totally randomly just said to you the other night, I'm like, hey, how about that interview? And you were like, yeah, mate, we can do it.
I really appreciate you having me on, but that was a terrible accent.
That was, I'm sorry, my Irish is better, so
Yeah, no, it worked out, mate. So, yeah, we've been trying to tee it up for a little while, but glad it could work out. And yeah, really happy to jump on and have a chat, and hopefully everyone watching gets something out of it. I don't know if I'm that interesting, but I'll try to be.
oh, here in the fandom zone, we're all interesting characters. So yeah, I remember our Genesis, we started actually with Game of Thorns. You jumped on with me and PB one time, and I was like, and we were like, hey, we like this guy, and we're all about diversity here in the fandom zone. So you had the less angry because PB ranted, I cursed, and you kind of brought a little bit of levity and stuff like that. So I guess my first question would be, because around that time, what, you were just kind of starting your channel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd literally just started, I think, because I started in March 2019. So, and that was right around that time that that terrible show or the terrible ending of Game of Thrones was coming out. So yeah, it was about that time that I started the channel, and I think from memory, PB saw one of my rants about Game of Thrones on a live stream, and he hit me up in the DMs and said, "Do you want to jump on?" And yeah, it just went from there, I guess. So yeah, it was about March last year.
Yeah, and PB was like, hey, yeah, watch this. So I sat back and I was laughing, but your style and the way that you brought things up in your videos, and this isn't just for Game of Thrones, but your movie reviews and things like that, you lean more on the factual side of things. There is humor in there, but you're what true critics used to do, with the analyzing, the breaking down, and then giving the reasons and stuff like that, where me or PB or someone else puts more of a satirical spin. So, you kind of keep yours grounded in facts and logic. And so let me ask you, when you first started, like everyone has something that gets them started in this, some kind of show, something that pisses them off is more that what I was thinking of. What was your thing where you got on and said, you know what? I want to reach a mass amount of people. I want to get my voice out there, and I think people will like what I have to say.
Um, yeah, it's a good question. I think as far as YouTube goes, it was more for me about, I got kids and I catch up with friends a lot, and not everybody is into movies like I am. It seems weird to me because I'm like, what do you mean you're not into movies? What do you mean you don't know all these movies I'm talking about? But then, we'd have these catch ups or whatever, and they'd be saying, what should we watch? What should we watch? What should the kids watch? All of this kind of stuff. And I give them a few suggestions, rattle off, some movies, talk to them about why. And then there's a couple of other people that I talked to that had different opinions to me. So we get into a bit of healthy debate about why something's good or not good. And then, so from there, I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll just share my thoughts, share my opinions. Maybe someone will care about it. Probably most won't, but maybe someone will care about it. And because I love movies and and TV and stuff like that as well, but mostly movies. Yeah, I was just like, it's something that I enjoy, so I'll make some videos and put it on YouTube. And of course, like everybody at the beginning, I was like, it's super easy. I could see, I see all these videos on YouTube. How hard can it be? I'm just gonna I'm just gonna start a channel.
Oh
I'm just gonna
yeah.
be. I'll probably have 1 million subs in a week, and then also like everybody, I got started. And I was like, damn, you have to do this, you have to do that. Oh, what's this editing stuff? and so and so I've worked on it since then. But the main reason was really that just it started out as conversations and yeah, just people wanting recommendations for movies, and I was like, you know what, I could put this in a video and help people out maybe.
And when you first started, because I know at least for myself, and there's a couple of other YouTubers, you sort of as you go, you start to develop where you want to go with it. Like, for me, developing a gimmick or taglines and things like that. And other people, geeks and gamers and things like that, they start developing their own personas and things like that. Uh, did you always decide like, hey, I'm just gonna stay Stevie J, or were you thinking, maybe I'll like flavor it up a bit, or how did you get to just settling on the Stevie J reviews? Did you have like some beta names like, Australian reviews or something like that? Or were you always like, I'm just gonna go as Stevie, I'm not going to try to add any flavor to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did I did think about it, and I thought about some different things I could try and use gimmicky wise and all that, but it seemed like everything I was coming up with just sounded just terrible. Sounded super cheesy, and I was like, you know what, if I don't like it, other people probably aren't going to like it either. so I just kept it simple and stuck with Stevie J. I mean, the only thing I suppose I've chucked in more recently is at the end of the videos. And look, I'm still trying to figure out what works and what could be a little bit more catchy for the channel. But the only thing I've chucked in recently is like at the end of the videos. Now I'll say if you're going this far, you're going all the way with Stevie J. But that's the only thing I've really chucked in at the moment. I'm still trying to figure out where to say those sort of things and really what works. I just and even for the formatting of my videos, like it's really hard in the movie review genre because there's so many millions of people doing movie reviews. And when you think about it, it's not something that's necessarily a skilled genre because anyone can just jump in front of a camera. And even people with like better quality videos can do it and not necessarily do a good job. But you can just hop in front of the camera, talk about a movie that's an opinion of yours, and put it online. So it's a tough genre to break into, but and it's interesting having a look at what the most successful videos are. So I think I've got up to about 150 videos now, and I mean, I look back at my first 30 or 40 videos, and even more than that, and I think, geez, that's cringeworthy. That's such a bad video. and then I just sort of look at how I've changed, how I've sort of developed over the last 12 months, and the videos that I watch, and it's true. Like if you watch your own videos and you don't like them, then probably nobody else is going to like them either. So I'm trying to have a look at that and think about what I can change. And for me, like I'm I'm fairly into comedy. Like I had two older brothers, and growing up, all we used to do was just crack each other up, and watch comedy films and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to put a bit more comedy into my videos now. So I'm not trying to stick to one kind of model for a video, but I think for me, the comedy sort of stuff is natural to me, but also trying to put in some factual stuff. So, like one of my more recent videos was a bit of a piss take on comic book movies, and and putting in some funny clips to just break it up a little bit, so it's not just me talking all the time or whatever. So, and then interestingly, so like my first real popular video was, strangely enough, a Joker video. So I did a video that was called Joker is a Masterpiece. That's all it was called, just pretty plain and simple. And it was really just me talking about three or four reasons why Joker was a masterpiece. And for whatever reason, that one took off, and I think it's up somewhere around 3,500 views. So that was my first sort of video that really got interest, I guess, or a lot of interest. And from there, it's interesting to me what people want to see, because then videos sort of went a bit flat for a while, and then recently I did a couple of top fives. So I did a top 5 war movies and a top 5 sniper movies, and I didn't talk in either of them. I didn't say a word. It was just my top 5 and my top 5 war movies, just basically playing clips from those movies. And both of those videos have done pretty well as well. So it's interesting. There's a whole big audience out there, but it's just how you reach them and get them to keep watching your stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just about how big the audience is, but it's about drawing that audience in. That's tricky. And, we've talked about this several times with the algorithm, the infamous, terrifying algorithm was like the ghost story for YouTubers. But it is a thing. And trying to fight and claw your way over some of the bigger videos and things like that, timing, getting your stuff out there. What's up, Stone Cold Jeremy? Good to see you here, buddy. If you guys are just tuning in, I am having a one-on-one fandom talks with Stevie J about his channel and all of that stuff. So welcome everyone. But yeah, I mean, it's about trying to set yourself apart, but also trying to get within the rhythm at the same time, because how many hundreds of thousands of videos are coming out a day that you're clawing and fighting against, constantly against the currents. So it's interesting, and I already know that you have an advantage because of your accent, Stevie, and I hate you for it.
See, I think it's a bad thing. I think it's a detriment to me because to the channel, because I don't know, like maybe it's just because I live in a bubble and most of the videos I watch are Americans talking, and I don't know. I think when I listen to myself, I'm like, geez, I sound like a weirdo.
Imagine how
I
I
sound like
feel.
a tool. But I mean, if it helps me, great. But I don't see it that way.
Yeah, so here's the biggest thing. I know that me and you have traveled the same circles with Phantom Menace and things like that recently.
Yep.
I've had a bit of a departure from that group, and I know you've never been really entrenched in any of that, but for the people who are watching, as far as those debates go, where do you fall? Do you side with the Phantom Menace and things like that? Do you side with God help us, the show media, or are you just kind of in the middle and wanting to be an objective voice? Because I feel like that's where all of us in this group are sort of fitting in, like trying to be balanced one way and the other, and not let our own hatred towards these outlets cloud the judgment of what we're speaking about, right? Because that's the problem we face now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like the Phantom Menace, I guess, to me is it more comes down to people for me. So uh, there's definitely people and things, and all of that sort of themes and stuff that for the Phantom Menace that I've supported, absolutely. And full transparency, like I've hashtag stuff, Phantom Menace, all of that, because I tend to agree with a lot of stuff to do with Star Wars, absolutely. Um, I think Disney absolutely screwed Star Wars, and I think the fans were um, genuinely shit canned by the shill media for having an opinion and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to just supporting the Fandom Menace because it's the Fandom Menace, or because some of the bigger channels say certain things, no, I don't agree with that. I just agree with what I look at is the topic. Whatever the topic is, do I agree with that? Yes or no? And I don't generally look at, there's for example, like Jeremy, he's got obviously a massive following, and he's very opinionated and that sort of thing. And I still watch some of his videos and I like some of his stuff, but there's other stuff I don't like, and so I don't watch it, or I don't, I just don't care about it. But so I don't blindly follow people or the Fandom Menace just because it is that, and it's a group that all help each other out and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really interest me, all that drama. And look, I see the arguments going back and forth, and people getting into Twitter battles and all this kind of stuff. And
Oh
I,
God.
and, and I just sort of go to myself like, I get it, but I mean, everyone just get over it. Seriously, it's not a big deal. Like it's Twitter, it's the internet, it's whatever. It's not real. It doesn't even matter. Um, but as far as the shill media goes, I mean, I don't like them either. I think that,
I
I
know
think
we're
they're
we're in this weird thing because here's the thing. Anytime, and this is just a fact of life. This is just how it goes. You can find this in the work world. You can find this on social media. Hell, you can find it amongst a group of friends, right? Whenever you get a group together that consists of more than one people with more than one thoughts, hopefully, if they are uh, people and not robots, they're going to think differently, right? You're going to have it sort of break down and kind of splinter off into subsections, and people having different views because not everyone's the same, right? So not everyone is going to share the same opinions. And I think that I fully agree with everything that you've just said. Uh it's got to be about the overall reasons for why the group is formed, no matter what group it is, and the main objective. And the main objective is the fact that, like you said, used to be back in the day, and I'm dating myself. I don't presume to know your exact age, Stevie, but it used to be back in the day. We had Siskel and Ebert, and we had the Times and the Post and all of the magazines. They used to look at this stuff objectively, right? They used to give us facts about movies, facts about shows, facts about entertainment. And it used to be something we could rely on. And the rise of people in this YouTube verse was because those facts are being skewered, twisted, and turned for agendas and opinions, right? Sure, we give our opinion on a movie. We give our opinion on a product, a television show, whatever else, and we state facts to why we form that opinion. And that's what it used to be in the media. And now it's not facts that are driving opinions, it's opinions that they're trying to turn into facts. And it's not supposed to work that way.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. I mean, just just and it goes back to all this SJW stuff, and I'm not someone who goes out there looking for SJW issues. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going out there to find something where it's woke or it's SJW written or all of that stuff. But you don't have to go looking for it because it's there. Um, and it goes back to all of that because pushing a movie or a TV show or anything to say that it's good purely because of the cast diversity or the message that's in it that's political and it's about LGBTQZY people, all of that stuff. It never used to get talked about. It used to just be. It used to just be, this is what the product is. This is what the piece of art is. Hopefully you enjoy it. And now it's, if you don't enjoy it, then you hate all of these people. And I
Yeah,
can't stand that.
yeah.
I cannot stand that. No, I don't hate all those people. I hate the way that this film or TV show or whatever it is was done. I hate it because it's crap. And it's got nothing to do with the cast. It's got nothing to do with the genders. It's got nothing to do with any of that other stuff. It's just because it's not well done. And I mean, look at Charlie's Angels, for example, right? So I actually didn't mind. I actually found the 2000s Charlie's Angels pretty entertaining. Like not great films, but pretty entertaining.
Oh yeah,
And
they knew what
and
they
I
were. That was
Yeah,
they
that's
weren't
right. And
trying to break the mold.
I got no problem with Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore. And personally, I think Drew Barrymore is pretty hot.
Amen to that.
But then they went and did this most recent Charlie's Angels, and it's like it's just utter nonsense. Like to say that the reason it failed was because men don't like seeing women in action. What are you talking about? That is just a nonsensical argument. It
And
really is. And I mean, you go back you go back to the 80s, to the 70s even, and you've got female action stars, and they're lauded as the best films of all time, some of them, and the best performances of all time. So it's just garbage, absolute garbage.
and yeah, here's the thing. When a movie failed, right? It used to be this thing that the critics gave us actual film reasons, right? Remember back in the days, and with the Siskel and Eberts and the people who used to critique these films, they used to give us solid reasons why the movie would fail. They'd be like, well, the camera work was off, and there's some things in the story that don't quite mash up, right? And then, like recently, in I'd say when Ghostbusters came out was when you started seeing not them owning up to the fact that they messed up their movie or they cast it poorly or the story just sucked. They started making up what seems like excuses. Like it seems like this thing with women, with the gay community, with diversity seem to be, instead of using it for what the movement started, right? Because let's see the flip side of that, right? There is stuff that goes on with that, right? There is women who get passed over for promotions. There is women who are treated horribly. There is minorities who are treated poorly. It happens. It's a thing. This is America. It's been going on since the fucking 16th century. That's nothing new. But this all started in that era where Hollywood was degrading these people. And to make themselves feel better, they turned the spotlight off of them and they shined it on all of us and said, you guys are the problem. You guys are the reasons why this is happening. Well, we were always upstanding. We never had a casting couch. We never protected Harvey Weinstein's of the world. We've always been a shining beacon of hope here in your dread, more morbid lives, you insignificant fools. That's what it feels like, right? And now they've even roped in critics to this mindset of if you don't like something, the studio can come out and they can make that infamous card. They could just drop it and be like, it's because it's got women. It's because it's got a diverse cast. You guys don't want to see diversity. No, I don't care about diversity. I just want to see an actor acting. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You don't care. You don't care what the actor is, whether they're man, woman, bloody black, white, orange. You don't care what they are. Really, at the end of the day, most people just want to see a good story told well, acted well, and be entertained. That's all people want, really, out of a movie. And
yeah,
for any of those
if
people out there who just want to see diversity, who just want to see someone who looks like them in a movie, they're not really the ones who are going to be supporting the films and the actors and all of that overall anyway. Because what they fail to understand is that, yes, there's an audience out there, and the majority of that audience is just everyday people like you and me who don't care about any of this stuff. But they're trying to target the smallest portion of society who does care about this stuff, and they don't go and watch the films anyway. So then you have the film bomb, and they blame the people who it wasn't targeted for anyway. It was it
yeah,
wasn't targeted for the right people. If you take a movie and target it to the right audience, which is the general population and most people, then it's generally going to make money or at least break even. It may not even be a great film, but it's probably going to break even. But if you just target the tiniest portion of society as your audience, and they don't even go and watch it, then you're definitely not going to make any money.
yeah. I mean, let's go back through history because me and you know films fairly well, right? The Scarfaces, the Blade Runners, and of the world, and things like that. Most people don't know these iconic films were hated. Scarface was panned so badly by critics. There were protests on that movie, right? Because of the violence, particularly the scene where he sawed someone with a chainsaw
The
in the shower,
chainsaw,
right?
yeah.
That
Yeah.
scene is notoriously ruffled. So many, if my memory serves me correctly, there were some theaters that didn't even want to show the movie because of that one particular scene. Now you jump ahead a couple of years and it's what has 20th anniversary edition. It's loved by all because yes, the critics were right. There are the issues that they laid out because these are old critics, not the new ones. They did critique very good reasons why that film, as a film, has issues, right? We all know Al Pacino overacted it. You all could get mad at me if you want. That accent is terrible. He way overdid it on that. I mean, if you study film and acting, you know he overdid it. But, the film itself and the story is well constructed. It has things to pull you in. Yeah, there's gross issues, but what makes it a classic is story and structurally wise, getting from point A to point B all makes sense. They didn't put nothing in between. They didn't put, we were talking about it last night, MacGuffins or anything that they needed to throw in just to drive the story.
Mm.
It got told organically and the way it was supposed to, and thus it got a following. Same thing with Blade Runner, right? I'm not crazy. Blade Runner was not liked at all when that movie came out. Critics hated it. Most people didn't understand it. Now we skip a couple of years later, they did the new Blade Runner, same exact bubble. Both movies I think are great. Um, even the newest Blade Runner, I liked it a lot. I thought it was just as rich as the original. But it took years for these films to gain a following. Boondock Saints, same thing. There's just a lot of films that at the time they're released, people either don't understand them or, they don't get the
Yeah.
vision. And then people go back through and watch it and they go, oh, I get it now. But they come to that decision on their own. Now skip to these new films. I mean, the recent movies we've reviewed, where's the substance? I mean, just take out the politics, right? And let's break it down from a story perspective. What are you using as your driving motivation? What are you using to organically get your characters from point A to point B? And that's the issue that we get that the media doesn't seem to understand. The writing is lazy, quite frankly, these days. It's lazy, it's contrived and lazy.
It is, and the thing that I've noticed a lot is, when I look at a film that's great, and it could be, there's many films out there that are fantastic, obviously, but we would talk about something. I'll go with Braveheart, right? I'll just pick Braveheart randomly. So Braveheart is, although it's based loosely on true story, it's obviously Hollywoodized, but the story itself is very, very simple, and it's not original, really. There's a guy whose girlfriend gets killed, and there's an oppressive force that's keeping them and terrorizing them and torturing them and all this sort of stuff. So it's a very simple premise. His girlfriend gets killed, and he wants to get revenge, and he wants to freeze people. Now that's a really, really simple story idea, and I think that works so well because, or a lot of films work so well with such a simple story, because it lets the characters drive the story forward. Like, the story is very simple. You could write it in a simple sentence, but it's what they build with the characters around it and the motivations they give those characters that really makes it connect to the audience. So in Braveheart, for example, everybody connects with him because they can see, okay, he's not this mindless brute. He's not just someone who's out for blood and all this kind of stuff. He doesn't want to fight, and that's a big part of it. He doesn't actually want to fight. But then when you see what happens to him and his girlfriend and his friends and all that sort of stuff, and then where he goes to, you're on that journey with him. You're like, yeah, go for it. Like, you really got that connection with him, and you want him to do everything that he's going to do. You don't care who he kills and all of that stuff. But it's a very, very simple story. And there's so many other movies like that have just a very simple idea written well, and that creates that character connection between characters and between the characters and us. So as an audience, we go along that journey with them. But what they do now, what I feel like writers do now, is they try to tick so many boxes, and they try to do twists, and they try to do turns, and they try to do all this stuff in the writing that they don't need to do, just to try and make it interesting. When all we really care about, or most of us really care about, is interesting characters. We don't care about, that was a shock. There was a twist there. This thing happened over here, and they're writing 5 different plots all at once. And it's like, you're not getting any of them right, though. None of them are interesting. Just stick to one story idea, go with it, write it well, and get those characters driving the story forward.
I mean, let's talk about, and I'm a big supporter of this guy, and I know you're gonna laugh when I say the name because I'm one of those, but I feel like uh he really does doom his own writing to his detriment, and he's a hit or miss. But M. Night Shyamalan, I've loved him. Yeah, I knew you were gonna laugh. I loved him for a while, right? And we can agree he's had great movies, and then he's had Lady in the Water. So, I mean, but that's an example of this guy's a great writer, right? I mean, I'm sure we don't need to debate that. Uh, but he gets in his own way with the twist, and it's not so much he's never, and even in his recent films, he's never gone the politics way, right? It's just he's always been his own worst enemy. And it's like you've said, it's with the need to throw in those plot twists that don't need to be there, right? He's got to have, since The Sixth Sense and the response to that, he's always felt this pressure. And he said it in interviews too and stuff, that people are expecting that big shocking moment from his movies because that's what got him to where he's at. And it's when he doesn't go for that and just focuses on the writing that his movies seem to shine. And I think that is the problem with the creative talent in Hollywood today is they're being put through these schools. They're being bred to think that these politics, A, have to be in their movie, and then B, that they have to have something that sets them apart. When really what is setting you apart is your idea. Your story, if it's good, is going to be the thing that sets you aside from the rest of the pack, right? I mean, look at it like a James Wan or someone like that, who's
Hmm.
edged out a piece in their own world. Or, for all you hashtag Snyder fans, even Zack Snyder. whether you like or hate his DC brand of things, he has had other movies that are really good.
Hmm.
They're really enjoyable. And it's when they focus on their craft and the story that they're trying to tell that they can set themselves apart, that we can see what they're trying to say. It's when they
Hmm.
get too creative or when they try to throw in that extra stuff that winds up hurting them, or when they try to tackle a franchise where they're under the expectations of someone else, right? How
Yeah,
much of
absolutely.
would you attribute to studios as well?
These days, a big portion. See, the way, and we talked a little bit before about how things have changed, and I think that, very much it used to be you wouldn't hear from directors, you wouldn't hear from producers, you wouldn't hear from those background kind of people. They were there, and they were rightly looked at as, upper class, you might say, in the film industry. But they were never public. They were never talked about. They were never really talked to, unless it was something huge, like a Star Wars or something like that. But and they never commented on their own films in the term of in the respect of this is why people don't watch it. This is why people do watch it. That sort of thing. They always used to comment on the artistic side of it. Um, but I feel like studios these days do have a huge say. It used to be like, for example, you would go to a studio, right? And you would pitch your idea and you would say, this is the script I've got, this is the story I want to tell, and this is how I want to do it. Will you foot the bill for that and let me do it? And they would say yes or no. They would either fund it or they wouldn't. But now it's gone to, unless you're like a major name like Christopher Nolan or something, if you go to the studios and say, this is the script I've got, this is the product that I want to make, can you fund it? And obviously you'll make the money. They say, okay, well, let's have a look at it. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to change this. We want to change that. We want to put this in there. No, get rid of that entire part, and we'll reshape the whole thing. And yet now we'll pay for it. And so for any of those directors who are not like a Christopher Nolan, who are not like a Steven Spielberg, they're not getting to do the product that they want to do. They're not getting to make the piece of art that they want to make. Um, and case in point, Todd Phillips with Joker. So he's never really been one to sort of toe the line, but even with that, he had his script for that, and it wasn't getting any looks from Warner Brothers at all. They were like, "No, nah, that's not what we want to do. It's nothing that we want to put out there. We don't want our brand to be about that type of film." And then when Justice League tanked, they're like, "Hey Todd, what's up with that script? Have you still got that? Have you still got that script there?" And he got to do it the way he wanted to do it because Warner Brothers were in a bit of trouble with Justice League and BVS. So um, that's the way I see it working right now. Is where it used to be the studio would fund the project because they had faith in the director, producer, whoever it was that was driving it, to make something good that would make them money. Now they say we're not going to fund it unless you change all of these things and make the film how we want it.
And I'm going to comment on that in just a second because, yeah, I wanted to add on to that, but I wanted to say something from Jamie Vick because she had an excellent point here. One of the biggest problems with movies today is that the stories are recycled material with politics thrown in. I couldn't agree more with that statement. That's what
Yeah,
movies feel
very
like. I
true.
mean,
Very true.
there's half of these reboots that come out. You say, who was asking for this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote into the studio? What subgroup said, you know what? I want to see this movie because, like, for instance, I got dragged to that Footloose movie, and coming from the original Footloose, that thing was like an abomination that not very many people talk about, and for good reason, because of the fact that the dancing, the music was there, but the heart and the soul of what that movie was and the true meaning of what that movie was not there.
Mm.
Granted, there were no politics in that film, but at the same point, it was to me worse because there wasn't any heart and soul in that movie. It felt like just a quick cash grab, just because. And swinging back to what you were saying about directors, if you're a new and upcoming screenwriter these days, people take aim at them, but I don't unless they come out and say something. But I don't typically aim at the director or the writer right away because I feel like they need an opportunity. They're not Christopher Nolan. They're not James Cameron. They're not Steven Spielberg. They haven't established themselves as a moneymaker. They don't have the confidence to sit back and go, you know what? I'll pass until someone lets me do what I want to do. They can't pass, right? They're just trying to break into this field. And when you're trying to break into the field and make it, there's that old saying, beggars can't be choosers, right? So these poor writers and directors are looking at it like, this is my shot. Warner Brothers is hiring me. Disney wants me. You know,
Hmm.
any sum of money from them, the name being put out there looks like a win, and they don't realize the backlash and the shitstorm they're going to be put into, and then they get in there and they go, "Oh, wow, this was not how I envisioned things going."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree, mate. That's what's happening. I mean, there's two parts, I suppose. Like there is, not every screenwriter is good. So they don't always write good scripts, and the studios do also meddle. So I don't go to blame them first. That's something I agree with you. I don't go to blame them first. The studios for me are the ones most to blame for the lack of quality we get in films these days. Um, and I really hope it's interesting to see all this stuff that's going on with the theatre shutdown and COVID and all that, but to see how it restarts. But I I was really hopeful when Joker came out, and I'm not going to keep going on about Joker, but because of its budget, because it was critically not panned, but it was critics were skeptical of it before it came out, um, and it was so successful. I really was hoping that Hollywood would take a little bit of a turn there, and studios would go, you know what, we don't have to do the cookie cutter thing every time. We don't have to just reboot everything and do it worse than what the original was just to make money. I mean, Disney's probably the worst, really. I mean, The Lion King is one of the worst things I've ever seen in 2019. It
Oh, I
was
agree that,
it was
like, when
just an
people,
absolute abomination.
and here's the thing that upsets me the most about Disney, and me, you, anyone from the Prophets of Geek culture and things like that, we don't prescribe to the just hating Disney just to hate it. We like to base it from product to product. But there is a trend within certain subsections of the Disney because Disney's got multiple subsections, and I don't prescribe that all of them are bad. The ones that are bad, though, are the ones where they have like their original stuff, like the Lion Kings, the Little Mermaids, thing like that. And the thing of them, it feels lazy, Stevie. It feels lazy. The Lion King movie felt lazy from a director who I quite enjoy normally, right?
Mm,
And I do understand to an extent what he was trying to do. And I respect the ambition of going like, hey, this reboot's going to get done, but I want to try to do it photorealistic. I want to, put my own flavor on it. I understand what he was trying to do. But once again, I blame it on the studio itself. Because when you say you want a live action of something, you limit the director, uh, you limit their ability to write it how they want to and to film it how they want to. You're putting them into a box. And the same thing happened with Guy Ritchie, okay? The Gentleman came out. I thought that was a brilliant, fantastic film. But then you go back and you look at Aladdin, right? And he's come out in interviews and talked about it
yeah.
and said that he felt like he was in a box and he didn't like working on the project. And even though it was a billion, he said he's not coming back to do any of the sequels because he felt like he couldn't be himself. He couldn't make the movie the way he wanted to. They wouldn't let him make decisions. He wanted to make
Mm,
Javar darker. I mean, some of the casting wasn't even his choice. It was coming out in interviews, right?
yeah.
The studio wanted an image. They wanted a mold. They wanted it. They didn't want it too edgy, but a little edgy. And it's like, Do you know what I write? Do you know what I direct? Do you know the director that you got?
Have you seen my work? Have you seen what I've done? Yeah, I think that's a good example. I mean, Guy Ritchie, I'm a fan of most of his stuff. Agree, Aladdin was it's just not there for me. It wasn't it wasn't horrible like The Lion King to me. It was just my main question to when I watched it was why? Why do we get that? And the
Yeah.
original, again, the original animated version from the '90s was a million times better and had a million more emotional connections in it. It was just 10 times better. So, um, and then you look at what he did with Gentleman, and I agree that was an awesome film. It was really well done. And this is something that I think they're missing as well. And to Jamie Vick's point earlier on the recycled material, you can you can use the same story idea, right? Like we look at Guy Ritchie films, they're generally the same sort of setup, but he adds little different flavors to them. So you can use a story that's been done, and let's face it, most stories have been done by now. To find something truly original story-wise is a stretch, but you could use something that's been done before, a story idea, a theme, whatever it is, but you can still add something creative to it to make it different, to make it stand out, to make it be something entertaining. It doesn't have to just be a cookie cutter recycled version with politics thrown in, like Jamie Vick said. You, you can actually do something original with it. And the example I like to use with this is one that's a little bit older, but Law Abiding Citizen, right? With
Oh
Gerard
yeah.
Butler. Now, that is not an original idea as far as the plot theme goes. It's a dad, his family gets killed, and he goes on revenge. But the way that they did it was different. And it wasn't, they didn't reveal the story. You didn't know the audience member watching it for the first time, you didn't know what was happening yet. So they revealed those plot pieces as the story went on. And it was bloody interesting to watch. So the theme of that movie was one that's been done a gazillion times, but they did it in an original way, and they did it well. And Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler were really good in it. But it's not an original idea. It's just that they added an original way of doing it and telling the story.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you could also look at Collateral too. That's one in my Jamie Foxx movies that I go to. Although Law Abiding Citizen was good, but look at Collateral, right? We've seen the hitman and some poor schmuck gets caught in his wake, and then he's got to try to stop him, kind of a deal, right? But the way they did that one, and the way Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise played it made that movie vastly different and interesting, and the tension in there, and like what was the deal, was he going to kill Jamie Foxx,
Mm,
Jamie Foxx just wanting his own cab company and things like that, and
yeah.
especially the plot twist at the end. And spoiler for, my God, I hope you've seen this movie, but when it's revealed that he meets that girl by happenstance, and the last target for Cruz is the girl that he fell in love with,
Mm,
and then Tom Cruise throughout the night has been giving him confidence where he wasn't very confident when we met him in the beginning of the film, but
yeah.
he gets that confidence to stand up to a trained professional. And and even like just the way the ending plays and the dynamic between the two of them, and even Cruz accepting that it was this guy that he had helped that killed him, that kind of look at the end in the subway where he's just like, good for you. He's not even like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
mad. He's just like, well, that's how it goes.
Yep.
And just the construction of how that's all put together, and you're on the edge of your seat, and you're rooting for so many things. This is what makes a story interesting. This is what makes us watch things several times. And even with television shows and things like that, that's the thing that you're missing. The biggest thing that we're not getting, even if you do a concept over again, is the hook. There's no hook anymore. It's kind of like music these days. You have the same beat, you have the same lyrics, but where's the hook that pulls you in, that makes you
Mm,
continuously want to watch this film, this form of entertainment? It's not
Yep.
there because there's no heart and soul in these things anymore. They're missing the fundamental piece of writing, and that is in writing, you have to have heart and soul. You have to have something that people can identify with. If you don't, you're not going to keep that audience. You're not going to lure them in if you don't have a thing that they want to see continuously.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about that. It's about the connection. And the hook. It's the same thing. Like, but you want to see either a connection with the audience and a character or characters, or a connection between the characters on the screen. So if you don't have that connection, and this is where writers do and studios fail these days, is they don't focus on that connection at all. They focus on just on the what's happening. Like, what is it? What's something shiny? What looks cool? What's loud? All of those sort of things. They don't focus on the actual soul of the story and connecting that to the audience, because and this is an example I love to use. And you talk about it, in the sense of it being a hook, right? So the movie Up, the animated film Up, the first 10 minutes or whatever in that film, where there's no dialogue, there's no nothing. It's purely just going from shot to shot to shot. And it's some of the most emotional uh, animation I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because
so
you don't
you are,
expect
you
that.
are exactly, and you are 100% hooked. Like, most people are in tears in that first 10 minutes. So you are hooked. You're in, and you're connected to the characters, and you're connected to the story and everything. You want to see what happens. Now the rest of Up after that is good. It's a good film, but that first 10 minutes is is it a perfect example of how, without even any dialogue, you could just set the scene and make that connection straight away with the audience. And I mean, we could talk for ages about how they did that, how they achieved it, but that's what I feel is missing. It's like the, and I forget who the writer was of that and the director, but they sat down and they went, okay, this is the story overall. In the beginning, how do we get these characters relatable? How do we get them to connect with the audience? How do we make it seem like this is really important and get people feeling something? And they went, okay, well, what would impact me? What would be relatable to me? So if the writers can't relate to the story, they shouldn't be doing it. They shouldn't be writing it, because they need to
Exactly.
they need to have that connection.
Exactly, and that's what you feel in these films. And you know what? Let's swing to Star Wars because that's a great example. When you watch those films, right? There's a clear disconnect in that sequel trilogy where yes, it might have connected to the writer who wrote it, but you don't feel the interconnection in the three movies because each of the writers and directors don't feel like they're on the same page. They don't feel like they're connecting to what the overall arching story is. They're connecting to the story they're telling in that specific moment, right? Ryan Johnson's just doing whatever the fuck. J.J. Abrams has his own idea. And, you know, and then the third one just feels like cleaning up what the first two, what the first one started and what the second one botched. That's what it feels like is happening. And it used to be if you're going to switch off directors, because they've done it for several franchises, you've seen directors come and go,
Hmm.
but I feel like there's always been a meaning that says, hey, look, this is what director A did. You know, this is the general direction. We want to take the franchise in. Now, you could do your own thing, but we'd at least like you to follow within this outline so it all makes sense, right? And they go, okay, sure, I'm going to put my own spin. Good, good. Meeting adjourned, right? Star Wars just felt like someone put them in a room and said, hey, do whatever. May the force be with you. like, like,
Yeah.
it felt like there was a disconnection between the studio and what they envisioned, between the directors and writers, what they envisioned, and what the actors themselves who had to return to these roles felt like they had no say. Where in the first trilogies, you could feel the writers, directors, actors were all on the same page. they may have all even had input, right? You might have had Mark Hamill going, you know what, let me try it this way. And George going, all right, I have faith. You know this character. Go ahead. And yeah, that's a great shot. Good. We're gonna put it in there. Or no, 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 Mark, you're getting crazy. Let's just shoot it this way, right? It felt like a collaboration, a true
Mm.
collaboration, where you
Yeah,
watch these ones and you've had the actors say, uh, in particular with Ryan Johnson, he's like, hey, this is my way or the highway. Him and Hamill clashed. That's documented several times on what they wanted the direction to be. And, Ryan, being the pompous ass that he is, was like, well, there's the door. We don't need
yeah,
Luke Skywalker. And clearly you did.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Well, no, it's a good example, and I think that's a really interesting point because if the directors and the filmmakers aren't passionate about the project, then they tend not to do that sort of stuff. They don't want to do the extra shot. They don't want to listen to the extra input. They don't want to actually achieve the best product and produce the best product. They just want to do what they want to do. Because there's been plenty of examples of fantastic, critically acclaimed films that have come out, and there's either been ad lib scenes in it that have been put in. There's been a scene where the actor said to the director, "Let me try this," just like he said. "Let me try this. We'll see if it works." Some directors and filmmakers will even rewrite the script on set. Even if they wrote it, they'll rewrite it on set just to make something better, so that they get that best product. They don't stay rigid in their ideas and say, "You know what? I wrote this. It's brilliant. I'm just going to keep it the same way that it is." I want the best project here. I want the best product to be released. I want audiences to love it. I'm passionate about it. So, you know what? Let's just rewrite it now. Let's rewrite this whole scene. And they'll
and
sit there with the actors and do it.
And here's the thing, whether people like or hate Venom, me personally, I love Venom, and I loved it more when I got the background. Tom Hardy had such collaboration with that. And let's be real, if you don't have Tom Hardy in that movie and you just have the bare bones story and where it went, that movie epically fails on a massive level. But Tom Hardy and the directors and writers being smart enough to, when Tom said, hey, you know what? I want to try this. It might seem a little weird. Let's just shoot it and see where it goes. And they were like, hey, that's not bad, right? And look at the difference in the performance because you have an actor who's passionate and delivering it his all in what should be a terribly constructed. I mean, let's be real. I love Venom as much as, as the next person, but a lot of that you go, wow, Tom, I can't believe you made this scene work. And he does because
Yeah.
he's passionate. And those writers and directors were smart enough to know, and Sony was smart enough to not be rigid in their position. And they had a hit without even meaning to. Because Sony and them were sweating looking at this going, man, I don't know. We're getting hit by these critics already. I don't know. And then the movie comes out and people are like, hey, this is kind of weird. There's really funny lines in here. Like, he actually talked about this guy looking like a turd rolling in the wind. Who makes something like that work? But when you look at the scene, when you watch that scene, Tom Hardy's deliverance of that line makes that work because he doesn't look at it like, man, this is going to be the stupidest line delivered in cinema ever. He's like, this is funny, and I'm going to deliver it seriously as a creature that's imposing, and I'm going to make people talk about it. And they did. That
Yeah.
kind of chances is what makes that film work.
Well, I think it's something to be said for acting as well. Like, there are definitely, you know, actors out there who can make an average script seem good with just how they deliver the lines. And, Tom Hardy's one of those. He's a great actor. And there's plenty of them out there that can do that. But there's also plenty of them who just can't. I mean, that are just planks and whatever, whatever's there,
Yeah.
they've got no spin, no emotion in what they deliver. And yeah, I agree. I agree. Actors can certainly improve a script, but at the end of the day, if the script's good and the acting's good, and they're passionate about it, then you can create something out of nothing almost.
Yeah, and we've seen that a thousand times over. So, to our point, that's the thing, and hopefully we're seeing a shift in Hollywood in trusting in the director themselves and in the actors to deliver. And you know what? Going to the Ruby Rose thing, because we've been talking about this over the course of the days. I feel like that could have been an issue in an argument. She was hollow and quite possibly the worst in performing emotional scenes I've ever seen. But we don't know what was going on behind the scenes because it feels like that was directed. Because I've seen Ruby Rose and other stuff. I've seen her in Orange is the New Black. She has emotional lines in there. She can emote. Um, she played a mute. Okay, and was quite funny at it. She had personality as a mute in John Wick. Eh, I mean, if you could
Yeah,
deliver that, then I refuse to believe that on a show written by CW writers, she couldn't put the effort into that. But I think it came down to she saw the script, and as the show went on and as the critiques came out, she got disheartened at what was going down. That's what it feels like. They said there were onset problems, right? And actors and stuff become hard to work with when they don't believe in the projects that they're working on.
yeah, absolutely. Listen, that's a natural thing, isn't it? It's a human thing. You're like, if you don't believe in anything, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to start being critical of it, and you're not going to be putting in your best effort as well. So yeah, I agree. It's probably it. I mean, you never really know. You never really know what's going on behind closed doors, but that seems most likely for sure.
But I know that we got time constraints on here because you got dingoes that you got to rustle and fires you got to put out.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to keep this my normal hour kind of interview because I know that you're busy and you got things to do and fucking time zones. But I was glad to get into this debate, and I would really love to do more of these where we just talk it and
yeah, for
dive
sure.
into the film part of stuff. But anyways, it's been really great to have you get a perspective and just deep dive into these different things and get a look into what you're looking at because I think it's important when we choose to subscribe to someone to see what the thought process is because I think it helps it make it easier for us to kind of be like, yeah, what that guy says is totally relatable. Like Stevie J is just laying down facts. I'm gonna check this guy out.
Yeah, well, hopefully, but yeah, no, thanks for having me on, mate. I appreciate it, and it will be good to try and do it again sometime for sure. It's hours going pretty fast, and it's always good. I always am happy to talk movies, always.
Yeah, we
It's
definitely,
obviously something I love, so yeah,
yeah, we
happy to
definitely,
whenever we can make it work.
yeah, we definitely knocked it out of the park. I really had a lot of fun. But let let's tell everyone where they could find you. And for everyone just joining, this is only an hour interview with Mr. Stevie J. Go ahead, catch the replay, hit that like button, and go subscribe to Stevie J Reviews because you know he has so many good thoughts and gets into the nitty gritty of things. Mr. Stevie J, tell him about any new videos you got coming up, upcoming projects, and maybe stuff for Profits of Geek Culture that we might be a part of.
um, Yeah, well, I'm trying to do videos for Profits of Geek Culture wherever I can, and I'm sort of doing them a little bit differently to the ones I do on my own channel where I can, just because it's a whole different channel and a different kind of mood. But for Stevie J Reviews, you can obviously find me there on the YouTube and at that Twitter handle as well. The most recent video I did was a top 10 worst comic book movies, which was, like I said before, it had a little bit of the comedy in it because it's pretty laughable, and Jeff Goldblum did help me with that, so check that one out. As far as upcoming projects go, I'm sort of looking at the moment at what I'm going to do next in terms of videos. It's probably going to be either looking at a series of reviews. So it might even be the top 10 worst comic book movies that I did. I might review all of those individually. I'm not sure. I haven't quite decided yet, but it will be, something coming out in the next week or so, I reckon.
Yes, yes, I think that that would definitely be intriguing to see. And yeah, I cannot wait to see what other stuff you deliver. And folks, me and Stevie might have some collaborations we do in the future. Who knows? But you guys have been here in the fandom zone either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how I feel. My Penny Dreadful review will be coming out, and I've been super excited. I've actually been gaining traction on those reviews, and uh, it's just been awesome. I never knew there was an audience for that, but my live stream reviews have been doing pretty good. So I promise you it will be probably Monday or tonight through the episode so I don't spoil anything for you guys. And I'll let you know when I get into spoiler territory. And also, due to requests, oddly, I'm going to be doing reviews on Billions. And I might do like a catch up where I do just episodes 1 through 4 in one sitting. So that'll be a slightly longer, and then I'll go episode by episode. But it's been pretty decent. I do have some thoughts and feelings on the direction the show is taking. Um, I'm not particularly digging the new politics they're throwing in there, but the core of the story is still there. So I'm hanging tight. It's still interesting. And I'll let you know about each and every episode and how I feel. Also, I am going to do a Memorial Day stream on Monday with the late night crew, although it might not be a late night because I have to work at 5 in the morning. So, yeah,
Yep.
it will be an earlier late night stream. So, everybody check it out. Thank you, as always, for coming to the channel. Thank you, Stevie, for being an amazing guest. I appreciate having you here. It's always fun. And you guys all know the rules by now. Here in the fandom zone, kneel before your general Zod.